Chapter 28 The Cheese Touch. I noticed not too long ago that even though people were getting used to me, no one would actually touch me. I didn't realize this at first because it's not like kids go around touching each other that much in middle school anyway. But last Thursday in dance class, which is like my least favorite class, Mrs. Atanabe, the teacher, tried to make Cinema Chin be my dance partner. Now I've never seen someone have a panic attack before, but I have heard about it, and I'm pretty sure Cinema had a panic attack at that second. She got really nervous and turned pale and literally broke into a sweat within a minute. And then she came up with some lame excuse about really having to go to the bathroom. Anyway, Mrs. Atanabe let her off the hook because she ended up not making anyone dance together. Then yesterday in my science elective, we were doing this cool mystery powder investigation where we had to classify a substance as an acid or a base. Everyone had to heat their mystery powders on a heating plate and make observations. So we were all huddled around the powders with our notebooks. Now there are 8 kids in the elective, and 7 of them were squished together on one side of the plate while one of them, me, had loads of rooms on the other side. So of course I noticed this, but I was hoping Miss Rubin wouldn't notice this because I didn't want her to say something. But of course she did notice it, and of course she said something. Guys, there's plenty of room on that side. Tristan, Nino, go over there, she said, so Tristan and Nino scooted over to my side. Tristan and Nino have always been okay nice to me. I want to go on record as saying that. Not super nice, like they go out of their way to hang out with me, but okay nice, like they say hello to me and talk to me like normal. And they didn't even make a face when Miss Rubin told them to come on my side, which a lot of kids do when they think I'm not looking. Anyway, everything was going fine until Tristan's mystery powder started melting. He moved his foil off the plate just as my powder began to melt too, which is why I went to move mine off the plate, and then my hand accidentally pumped his hand for a fraction of a second. Tristan jerked his hand away so fast that he dropped his foil on the floor while also knocking everyone else's foil off the heating plate. Tristan, yelled Miss Rubin, but Tristan didn't even care about the spilled powder on the floor or that he ruined the experiment. What he was most concerned about was getting to the lap sink to wash his hands as fast as possible. That's when I knew for sure that there was this thing about touching me at beacher prep. I think it's like the cheese tat in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The kids in that story were afraid they'd catch the goodies if they touched the old moldy cheese on the basketball court. At beacher prep, I'm the old moldy cheese.
Costumes. For me, Halloween is the best holiday in the world. It even beats Christmas. I get to dress up in a costume. I get to wear a mask. I get to go around like every other kid with a mask, and nobody thinks I look weird. Nobody takes a second look. Nobody notices me. Nobody knows me. I wish every day could be Halloween. We could all wear masks all the time. Then we could walk around and get to know each other before we got to see what we look like under the mask. When I was little, I used to wear an astronaut helmet everywhere I went. To the playground, to the supermarket, to pick me up from school. Even in the middle of summer, thought it was so hot my face would sweat. I think I wore it for a couple of years, but I had to stop wearing it when I had my eye surgeries. I was about 7, I think, and then we couldn't find the helmet after that. Mom looked everywhere for it. She figured that it had probably ended up in Gran's attic, and she kept meaning to look for it, but by then I had forgotten. I had gotten used to not wearing it. I have pictures of me in all my Halloween costumes. My first Halloween was a pumpkin. I was a pumpkin. My second, I was Tigger. My third, I was Peter Pan. My dad dressed up as Captain Hook. My fourth was Captain Hook. My dad dressed up as Peter Pan. My fifth, I was an astronaut. My sixth, I was Obi-Wan Kenobi. My seventh, I was a clone trooper. My eighth, I was Darth Vader. My ninth, I was the bleeding scream, the one that had thick blood oozing out over the school mask. This year, I'm going to be Boba Fett. Not Boba Fett, the kid in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, but Boba Fett, the man from Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Mom searched everywhere for the costume, but couldn't find one in my size, so she bought me a Jango Fett costume. Since Jango was Boba death and wore the same armor, and then painted the armor green. She did some other stuff to make it look worn too. Anyway, it looks totally real. Mom's good at costumes. In homeroom, we all talk about what we were going to be for Halloween. Charlotte was going as Hermione from Harry Potter. Jack was going as a wolfman. I heard that Julian was going as Jango Fett, which was a weird coincidence. I don't think he liked hearing that I was going as Boba Fett. On the morning of Halloween, Via had this big crying meltdown about something. Via's always been so calm and cool, but this year she's had a couple of these kind of fits. Dad was late for work and was like, Via, let's go. Usually Dad is super patient about things, but not when it comes to his being late for work. And his feeling just stressed out Via even more, and she started crying louder. So Mom told Dad to take me to school, and that she dealt with Via. Then Mom kisses me goodbye quickly before I even put on my costumes and disappear into Via's room. Okay, let's go now, said Dad. I have a meeting I can't be late for. I haven't put my costume on yet, so put it on already. 5 minutes. I will meet you outside. I rushed to my room and started to put on the Boba Fett costume, but all of a sudden I didn't feel like wearing it. I'm not sure why. Maybe because it had all these belts that needed to be tightened, and I needed someone to help put it on. Or maybe it was because it still smelled a little like paint. All I knew was that I was a lot of work to put the costume on, and Dad was waiting and would get super impatient if I made him late. So at the last minute, I threw the bleeding screen costume from last year. It was such an easy costume, just a long black robe and big white mask. I yelled goodbye from the door on my way out, but Mom didn't even hear me. I thought you were going as Jango Fett, said Dad when I got outside. Boba Fett, whatever, said Dad. This is a better costume anyway. Yeah, it's good, I answered.
The bleeding scream walking through the halls that morning on my way to the lockers was, I have to say, absolutely awesome. Everything was different now. I was different. Where I usually walked with my head down trying to avoid being seen, today I walked with my head up looking around. I wanted to be seen. One kid wearing the same exact costume as my long white school face, oozing fake red blood, high-fiving as we passed each other on the stairs. I had no idea who he was, and he had no idea who I was, and I wondered for a second if he would have ever done that, if he knew it was me under the mask. I was starting to think this was going to go down as one of the most awesome days in the history of my life, but then I got to homeroom. The first costume I saw as I walked inside the door was Darth Vader's. It had one of the rubber masks that is so realistic, with a big black hood over the head and a long black robe. I knew right away it was Julian, of course. He must have changed his costume at the last minute because he thought I was coming as Jango Fett. He was talking to two mummies who must have been Miles and Henry, and they were all tired looking at the door like they were waiting for someone to come through it. I knew it wasn't a bleeding scream they were looking for. It was a Boba Fett. I was going to go and sit at my usual desk, but for some reason, I don't know why, I found myself clicking over to a desk near them and I could hear them talking. One of the mummies was saying, "It really does look like him." "Like this part especially," answered Julian's voice. He put his fingers on the cheeks and eyes of his Darth Sidious mask. "Actually," said the mummy, "what he really looks like is one of those shrunken heads. Have you seen those? He looks exactly like that. I think he looks like an orc." "Oh yeah, if I look like that," said the Julian voice, kind of laughing. "I swear to God, I put a hood over my face every day." "I thought about this a lot," said the second mummy, sounding serious, "and I really think if I look like him seriously, I think that I kill myself." "You would not," answered Decidius. "Yeah, for real," insisted the same mummy. "I can't imagine looking in the mirror every day and seeing myself like that. It would be too awful. And getting started at all the time." "Then why do you hang out with him so much?" asked Decidius. "I don't know," answered the mummy. "Tushman asked me to hang out with him at the beginning of the year, and he must have told all the teachers to put us next to each other in all our classes or something." The mummy shrugged. I knew the shrug, of course. I knew the voice. I knew I wanted to run out of the class right then and there, but I stood where I was and listened to Jack Will finish what he was saying. "I mean, the thing is, he always followed me around. What am I supposed to do?" "Just ditch him," said Julian. "I don't know what Jack answered, because I walked out of the class without anyone knowing I had been there. My face felt like it was on fire while I walked back down the stairs. I was sweating under my costume, and I started crying. I couldn't keep it from happening. The tears were so thick in my eyes, I could barely see, but I couldn't wipe them through the mask as I walked. I was looking for a tiny spot to disappear into. I wanted a hole I could fall inside of, a little black hole that would eat me up.
Names: Read by Freak Monster Freddy Krueger, E.T. Rust Out, Leatherface, Mutant. I know all the names they called me. I've been in enough playgrounds to know kids can be mean. I know. I ended up in the second floor bathroom. No one was there because first period had started and everyone was in class. I locked the door to my store and took off my mask and just cried for I don't know how long. Then I went to the nurse's office and told her I had a stomach, which was true, because I felt like I'd been kicked in the gut. Nurse Morley called Mom and had me lie down on the sofa next to her desk. 15 minutes later, Mom was at the door. "Sweetness," she said, coming over to hug me. "Hi," I mumbled. I didn't want her to ask anything until afterward. "You have a stomachache?" she asked, automatically putting her hand on my forehead to check for my temperature. "He said he feels like throwing up," said Nurse Molly. "Look at me with very nice eyes." "And I have a headache," I whispered. "I wonder if it's something you ate," said Mom, looking worried. "There's a stomach bug going around," said Nurse Molly. "Oh, geez," said Mom, her eyebrows going up as she shook her head. He helped me to my feet. "Should I call a taxi, or are you okay walking home?" "I can walk." "What a brave kid," said Nurse Molly, patting me on the back as he walked us toward the door. "If he starts throwing up or runs a temperature, you should call the doctor." "Absolutely," said Mom, shaking Nurse Molly's hand. Thank you so much for taking care of him." "My pleasure." answered noticeably, putting her hand under my chin and tilting my face up. "You take care of yourself, okay?" I nodded and mumbled, "Thank you." Mom and I had walked the whole way home. I didn't tell her anything about what had happened, and later when she asked me if I felt well enough to go trick-or-treating after school, I said no. This worried her, since her knew how much I usually loved trick-or-treating. I heard her say to Dad on the phone, "He doesn't even have energy to go trick-or-treating. No fever at all. Well, I will if he doesn't feel better by tomorrow." I know, poor thing. Imagine his missing Halloween. I got out of the going to school the next day, too, which was Friday, so I had the whole weekend to think about everything. I was pretty sure I would never go back to school again.
Chapter 32 A Tour of the Galaxy. August is the sun. Me and Mom and Dad are planets orbiting the sun. The rest of our family and friends are asteroids and comets floating around the planets orbiting the sun. The only celestial body that doesn't orbit August the sun is Daisy the dog. And that's only because to her little doggy eyes, August's face doesn't look very different from any other human's face. To Daisy, all our faces look alike, as flat and pale as the moon. I'm used to the way this universe works. I've never minded it because it's all I've ever known. I've always understood that August is special and has special needs. If I was playing too loudly and he was trying to take a nap, I knew I would have to play something else because he needed his rest after some procedure or either had left him weak and in pain. If I wanted Mom and Dad to watch me play soccer, I knew that 9 out of 10 times they'd miss it because they were busy shuttling August to speech therapy or physical therapy or a new specialist or a surgery. Mom and Dad would always say I was the most understanding little girl in the world. I don't know about that, just that I understood there was no point in complaining. I've seen August after his surgery. His little face bandaged up and swollen. His tiny body full of IVs and tubes to keep him alive. After you've seen someone else going through that, it feels kind of crazy to complain over not getting the toy you had asked for, or your mom missing a school play. I knew this even when I was 6 years old. No one ever told it to me. I just knew it. So I've gotten used to not complaining, or I've gotten used to not bothering Mom and Dad with little stuff. I've gotten used to figuring things out on my own. How to put toys together, how to organize my life so I don't miss friends' birthday parties, how to stay on top of my schoolwork so I never fall behind in class. I've never asked for help with my homework. Never needed reminding to finish a project or study for a test. If I was having trouble with a subject in school, I'd go home and study it until I figured it out on my own. I taught myself how to convert fractions into decimal points by going online. I've done every school project pretty much by myself. When mom or dad ask me how things are going in school, I will always say good, even when it hasn't always been so good. My worst day, worst fall, worst headache, worst bruise, worst cramp, worst mean thing anyone could say has always been nothing compared to what August has gone through. This isn't me being noble, by the way. It's just the way I know it is. And this is the way it's always been for me, for the little universe of us. But this year there seems to be a shift in the cosmos. The galaxy is changing. Planets are falling out of alignment.
Chapter 33 Before August. I honestly don't remember my life before August came into it. I look at pictures of me as a baby, and I see mom and dad smiling so happily, holding me. I can't believe how much younger they look back then. Dad was this hipster dude, and mom was this cute Brazilian fashionista. There's one shot of me at my third birthday. Dad's right behind me, while mom's holding me the cake with 3 lit candles, and in back of us are Tata and Popper, Grants, Uncle Ben, Aunt Kate, and Uncle Paul. Everyone's looking at me and I'm looking at the cake. You can see in that picture how I really was the first child, first grandchild, first niece. I don't remember what I felt like, of course, but I can see it plain as can be in the pictures. I don't remember the day they brought August home from the hospital. I don't remember what I said or did or felt when I saw him for the first time, though everyone had a story about it. Apparently, I just looked at him for a long time without saying anything at all, and then finally I said, "It doesn't look like Lily." That was the name of a doll Grant had given me when mom was pregnant, so I couldn't practice being a sister. It was one of those dolls that are incredibly lifelike, and I had carried it everywhere for months, changing its diaper, feeding it. I'm told I even made a baby sling for it. The story goes that after my initial reaction to August, it only took a few minutes, according to Grant, or a few days, according to Mom, before I was all over him, kissing him, cuddling him, baby talking to him. After that, I felt so much as touch or mention Lily ever again.
On the challenge, 23 August 2020, Chapter 2, Seeing August. I never used to see August the way other people saw him. I knew he didn't look exactly normal, but I really didn't understand why strangers seemed so shocked when they saw him. Horrified, sickened, scared. There are so many words I can use to describe the look on people's faces, and for a long time I didn't get it. I just get mad. Mad when they start, mad when they look away. What the heck are you looking at? I would say to people, even grow up. Then, when I was about 11, I went to stay with Grant in Montauk for 4 weeks while August was having his big jaw surgery. This was the longest I've ever been away from home, and I have to say it was so amazing to suddenly be free of all the stuff that made me so mad. No one stared at Grant and me when we went to town to buy grocery. No one pointed at us. No one even noticed us. Grant was one of those grandmothers who do everything with their grandkids. She'd run into the ocean if I asked her to. Even if she has nice clothes on, she would let me play with her makeup and didn't mind if I used it on her face to practice my face painting skill. She'd take me for ice cream even if we hadn't eaten dinner yet. She'd draw chalk horses on the sidewalk in front of her house. One night while we were back from town, I told her that I wish I could live with her forever. I was so happy there. I think it might have been the best time in my life. Coming home after 4 weeks felt very strange at first. I remember very vividly stepping through the door and seeing August running over to welcome me home. And for this tiny fraction of a moment, I saw him not the way I've always seen him, but the way other people see him. It was only a flash, an instant while he was hugging me, so happy that I was home. But it surprised me because I'd never seen him like that before, and I never felt what I was feeling before either. A feeling I hate myself for having the moment I had it. But as he was kissing me, it always hurt. All I could see was a drool coming down his chin, and suddenly there I was, like all those people who would stare or look away, horrified, sickened, scared. Thankfully, the only lasted for a second. The moment I heard August laugh his raspy little laugh, it was over. Everything was back in the way it had been before, but he had opened a door for me, a little peephole. On the other side of the peephole, there were 2 Augusts, the one I saw blindly and the one other people saw. I think the only person in the world I could have told any of this to was Grant, but I didn't. It was too hard to explain over the phone. I thought maybe when she came for Thanksgiving, I would tell her all what I felt. But just 2 months after I stayed with her in Montauk, my beautiful Grace died. It was so completely out of the blue. Apparently, she had checked herself into hospital because she'd been feeling nauseous. Mom and I drove out to see her, but it's a 3-hour drive from where we live, and by the time we got to the hospital, Grants were gone. A heart attack, they told us, just like that. It's so strange how one day you can be on this earth and the next day not. Where did she go? Will I really ever see her again, or is that a fairy tale? You see movies and TV shows where people receive horrible news in hospital, but for us, with all our many trips to hospital with August, there had always been good outcomes. What I remember the most is the day Grant died, and Mom literally crumbling to the floor in slow, heavy sob, holding her stomach like someone had just punched her. I've never ever seen Mom like that, never heard sound like that come out of her, even though all the August surgery, Mom always put on a brave face. On my last day in Montauk, Grant and I had watched the sunset on the beach. We had taken a blanket to sit on, but it had gone chilly, so we wrapped it around us and cuddled it and talked until there wasn't even a sliver of sun left over the ocean. And the Grants told me she had a secret to tell me. She loved me more than anyone else in the world. Even August, I had asked. She smiled and stroked my hair like she was thinking about what to say. I love Augie very, very much, she said softly. I can still remember his Portuguese accent, the way she rolled her R's. But he has many angels looking out for him already, dear. And I want you to know that you have me looking out for you, okay, Mena Querida? I want you to know that you are number one for me. You're my. She looked out at the ocean and spread her hand out like he was trying to smooth out the way. You are my everything. You understand me, Via? Towards male to door. I understood her, and I knew why she said it was a secret. Grandmother aren't supposed to have favorite. Everyone knows that. But after she died, I held on to the secret and let it cover me like a blanket. Yes.
Chapter 35. August to the peephole. His eyes are about an inch below where they should be on his face, almost to halfway down his cheeks. They slant downward at an extreme angle, almost like the diagonal slit that someone cut into his face, and the left one is noticeably lower than the right one. They bulge outward because his eye cavities are too shallow to accommodate them. The top eyelids are always halfway closed, like he's on the verge of sleeping. The lower eyelids sag so much they almost look like a piece of invisible string is pulling them downward. You can see the red part on the inside, like they almost inside out. He doesn't have eyes or eyelashes. His nose is disproportionately big for his face and kind of fleshy. His head is pinched in on the sides the ears should be. Someone used giant pliers and crushed the middle part of his face. He doesn't have cheekbones. There are deep creases running down both sides of his nose to his mouth, which give him a waxy appearance. Sometimes people assume he's been burned in a fire. His features look like they've been melted, like the drippings on the side of a candle. Suffered surgeries to correct his ballot. His ballot have left a few scars around his mouth, the most noticeable one being a gas running from the middle of his upper lip to his nose. His upper teeth are small and splayed out. He has a severe overbite and an extremely undersized jawbone. He has a very small chin. When he was very little, before a piece of his hip bone was surgically implanted into his lower jaw, he really had no chin at all. His tongue could just hang out of his mouth with nothing underneath to block it. Thankfully, it's better now. He can eat, at least. When he was younger, he had a feeding tooth, and he can talk, and he's learned to keep his tongue inside his mouth. Though that took him several years to master, has also learned to control the door that's used to run down his neck. These are considered miracles. When he was a baby, the doctors didn't think he could live. He can hear too. Most kids born with these types of birth defects have problems with their middle ears that prevent them from hearing, but so far, August can hear well enough through his teeny cauliflower-shaped ears. The doctors think that eventually he will need to wear hearing aids. Though August hates the thought of this. He thinks the hearing aids will get noticed too much. I don't tell him that the hearing aids could be the least of his problem, of course, because I'm sure he knows it. Then again, I'm not really sure that August knows or doesn't know. What he understands and doesn't understand. Does August see how other people see him, or has he gotten so good at pretending not to see that it doesn't bother him, or does it bother him? When he looks in the mirror, does he see the orgy mom and dad see, or does he see the orgy everyone else see, or there's another August he sees? He sees someone in his dreams, behind the misshapen hat and face. Sometimes when I look at my glance, I could see the pretty girl she used to be underneath the wrinkles. I could see the girl from Ipanema inside the old lady work. Does August see himself as he might have looked without the single then that caused the catastrophe of his face? I wish I could ask him this stuff. I wish he could tell me how he feels. He used to be easier to read before the surgeries. You knew that when his eyes squinted, he was happy. When his mouth went straight, he was being mischievous. When his cheeks trembled, he was about to cry. He looks better now, no doubt about that, but the size we used to gauge his moods are all gone. There are new ones, of course. Mom and Dad can read every single one, but I'm having trouble keeping up. And there's part of me that doesn't want to keep trying. Why can't he just say what he's feeling like everyone else? He doesn't have a turkey tooth in his mouth anymore that keeps him from talking. His jaw is not weird shut. His jaw is not weird shut. He's 10 years old. He can use his words, but we circle around him like he's still the baby he used to be. We train plans, go to plan B, interrupt conversations, go back on promise depending on his moods, his whims, and his needs. That's worked fine when he's a little, but he needs to grow up now. We need to let him, help him, make him grow up. Here's graduating. We've all spent so much time trying to make August think he's normal that he actually thinks he's normal, and the problem is he's not.
High school. What I always loved most about middle school was that it was separate and different from home. I could go there and be Olivia Pullman, not Via, which is my name at home. Via was what they called me in elementary school too. Back then, everyone knew all about us. Of course, Mom used to pick me up after school, and August was always in the stroller. There weren't a lot of people who were equipped to babysit for Augie, so Mom and Dad brought him to all my class plays and concerts and recitals, all the school functions, the bake sale, the book fairs. My friends knew him. My friends' parents knew him. My teachers knew him. The janitor knew him. "Hey, how you doing, Augie?" he would always say and give August a high five. August was something of a feature at PS22. But in middle school, a lot of people didn't know about August. My old friend did, of course, but my new friend didn't. Or if they knew, it wasn't necessarily the first thing they knew about me. Maybe it was the second or third thing they would hear about me. Olivia? Yeah, she's 9. Did you hear she has a brother who deformed? I always hated that word, but I knew it was how people described Augie. And I knew those conversations probably happened all the time out of earshot. Every time I left the room at a party or bumped into a group of friends at the pizza place. And that's okay. I'm always going to be the sister of a kid with a birth defect. That's not the issue. I just don't always want to be defined that way. The best thing about high school is that hardly anybody knows me at all, except Miranda and Ella, of course, and they know not to go around talking about it. Miranda, Ella, and I have known each other since the 3rd grade. What's so nice is we never had to explain things to one another. When I decided I wanted them to call me Olivia instead of Via, they got it without me having to explain. They have known August since he was a little baby. When we were little,
Our favorite things to do was play dress up with Augie. Lord came up with feather boas and big hat and Hannah Montana wings. He used to love it, of course, and we thought he was adorably cute in his own way. Ella said he reminded her of E.T. She didn't say this to be mean, of course, though maybe it was a little bit mean. The truth is, there is a scene in the movie when Drew Barrymore dresses E.T. in a blonde wing, and that's what lingered for Augie in our Miley Cyrus heyday. Throughout middle school, Miranda, Ella, and I were pretty much our own little group, somewhere between super popular and well-liked. Not brainy, not jock, not rich, not drunkies, not mean, not goody-goody, not huge, not flat. I don't know if the three of us found each other because we were so alike in so many ways, or that because we found each other, we have become so alike in so many ways. We were so happy when we all got into Funga High School. It was such a long shot that all three of us would be accepted, especially when almost no one else from our middle school was. I remember how we screamed into our phones the day we got our acceptance letter. This is why I haven't understood what's been going on with us lately. Now that we are actually in high school, it's nothing like how I thought it would be.